Hotepu everyone. This is His Royal Majesty Ra Sumabay Fagbemi, the world's first openly African black gay king. And the role of a king is to teach and protect his people, to nourish them. And today I wish to do so, both nourish and protect you, by giving you the latest starry news. Recently, the energy, we call the spirit or the energy of Heru Apsheta, which the West calls Jupiter, entered this sign, this yellow sign of Libra. So this means that your subconscious energies, symbolized by the planet Ma'a or Jupiter or Heru Apsheta, are entering this need. So basically, a sign means a need in you. Here we have 12 colored signs from the ram at number 1 to the fish at 12. Each of these 12 represent longings in you, needs, your 12 inalienable rights. The seventh need here, Libra, is that every human being, past, present, and future, has the right to have their needs for love fulfilled. We all have a need for relationship, for bonding with a specific other. And to celebrate that on a social level through acknowledgement as a marriage or through wearing a ring or some kind of symbol that this is my partner, this is the one that I'm with. So it's your need for a relationship. Now, the planet Jupiter or Heru Apsheta, which means Heru means the master who opens the mysteries. Heru Apsheta. Jupiter is the light or the master that opens and judges the mysteries. The word Ap means to judge or open, and Sheta means mysteries or secrets. It refers to what you would call, perhaps in India, is the closest phrase, guru. The word Apsheta means like a guru, the one who opens and analyzes the mysteries for people. This part of you is your talent for opening up the mystery of something, meaning digging deep into the philosophy of something, seeing the whole picture of something. That's what Heru Apsheta / Jupiter is in you. Your talent for seeing a system and how the system works with its parts, the parts with the system, and the parts with each other. And then abstracting principles from that dynamic. So I want to spend today showing you how you can know anything about relationships. Because of Heru Apsheta Taui, or Heru Apsheta, I'm going to teach you the system of understanding relationships, the whole. The wheel of the zodiac is really a snapshot of your subconscious mind and how it links to the greater universe. But more importantly, it's a map of your psychology. That's it. If you keep it at that level, you'll become a very good astrologer in no time flat. It is the oldest, most profound, and most well-worked model of the subconscious mind of human psychology. It is a geometric model. It's a circle divided into 12 parts. Each slice, each white slice, or each color you see there, is 30 degrees. So we're getting into geometry, the geometry of the psyche, the geometry of psychology. And this geometry we're going to see is very important to understanding any area of life. We're going to hone in on the seventh mystery of love, relationships. Let's begin. The first thing we look at is this first house is called the self. And you see there's a line going through this wheel, making two hemispheres, an upper and lower. The numbers 1 through 6, meaning below the hemisphere, below the horizon line here, these houses are called the more personal houses. They deal with separation from the whole. They deal with individualization, becoming a separate unit, an individual, a uniqueness separate from the group. Once you cross to the 7th dimension here, 7 to 12 are called the social houses, which means their interest is the group becoming more important than the individual. So the first 6 deal with the individual is more important than the group. The next 7 is the group is more important than the individual. Just that alone is telling you a lot about life. Half of life is about you, and half of life is about us. And you have to find the balance between you and the great we. So now you know that the 7th house belongs to the we houses, whereas the first house belongs to the me house, the me half. That's the first thing to notice. Relationships are the beginning of you understanding the need for we-ness, for us-ness. When you begin to go into a love experience, you must begin the mystery of how do I deal with we and not just me and my needs. Now, you see there are 12 houses or 12 slices, and they have opposites. Just take a number and add 6 to get its opposite. So 1 plus 6 is 7. Therefore, the opposite of 1 is 7. 2 plus 6 is 8. Therefore, the opposite of 2 is house number 8. And that's the pattern. Opposites mean that they are two sides of one seesaw. So 1 and 7 form a seesaw. What one has, the other misses. And what one is missing, the other has. So the first house is called, I call the opera house because the song you sing here is me, me, me. It's all about me and my needs and my survival and my body and my interests. Opposite that, the other part of the seesaw is we. We. Our interests, our needs, our relationship. Okay? So, to have a relationship, you must first be ready for this upper half of getting prepared for working with a team of another person. That must be balanced with keeping your individuality while at the same time, on the same seesaw, one half of the seesaw has your individuality, your individual needs, your personal space, your personal needs, and the other half of the seesaw here at station 7 has the needs of your relationship, the two of you. You must have a balance between those two. Couples need me time and they need we time. Look what you're learning already just by looking at the geometry of your own psychology, your own subconscious mind. Some people believe that when you become involved in a relationship, you have to lose your first house. You lose yourself. This is not balanced. You must find the middle point between my personal space, my personal needs, and what we need as a couple, what we should do as a unit. Okay, so now we're going to go into detail with this sign and this slice more as a fractal zooming in. First of all odd numbers are what's called electric houses. They have an electric charge. All the even houses, 2, 4, 6, 8, are what's called a magnetic charge. Electric means outgoing. Magnetic means pulling in, attracting, quietly. Outgoing is loud and centrifugal, and ingoing or magnetic is ingoing and centripetal, passive, more passive power. And the odd houses are more dynamic power. Okay, so look, the love life is the seventh, therefore it is an odd number, which is very interesting. It's an electric sign, it's a yang sign, meaning things will come out. You see, it's when you're in a relationship, you're going to enter a yang environment, meaning things are going to want to go extrovertedly. They're going to want to go outward and become exposed. If you don't want to be exposed, don't enter relationships, because by divine science of Our Lady Nut, or the astrology science, all relationships are an odd number house. Any of you who've been in a relationship know that it is true, that the zodiac reads the truth. This wheel of Ra reads it exactly as it must be. All of your peccadillos and your weird quirks and your ways all eventually become exposed, extroverted, once you bond with someone. This is telling you that's natural. It's unnatural to hide, to be yin in a relationship. You should be yang. Okay? Because people often think of love as a more feminine phenomenon, but by the science of Ra, this wheel is called the Eye of Ra, or the Wheel of Nut, our star goddess, says no. Bonding must be open. It opens you, exposes you. Now, these scales are the symbol right here. This is the scale for Libra. This means this symbol has two layers of basic meaning. One, it shows this straight line down there is the horizon, and this kind of bumped line here shows the sun setting. So the scales show the setting of the sun. The sun means the ego. When you enter a relationship, the ego begins to set. The ego begins to die. The ego must go underground. It must not be dominant. If you let the sun or the ego within you to rest, to set, then you will find balance, the scales of balance. You see, the scales are owned by the goddess Ma'at. So she is one of the queens of relationships of the seventh house of Libra. Ma'at means the scales of justice, the scales of balance. But you can't be just when there's ego or self-interest involved. It could be in a court. You can't be a judge and be a good one and have self-interest biases poisoning your judgment. In a relationship, you cannot have the bias of the ego determining the judgments you make in that relationship. You must have the ego set like the western sun. The seventh house is what's called an air house, and Libra is called an air sign. This again is most shocking for many people in the West. Air represents the mind. It represents two things, the mind and the desires, because the mind often is filled with many desires. You would think that the relationship house or sign would be more emotional, but air is very intellectual. Okay, this is a complete and radical difference from what you've been taught through Disney movies and love stories and fairy tales about love. Love should be very mental process. Air is objective, air is analytical, air is very Communicative, because when you speak, you must use air to speak. So it implies communication. It implies fair and balanced communication, the scales. It implies egoless communication, the setting sun. So if you're not able to communicate well, meaning you don't have a good air element in your chart, then you will fail in relationships. Men often don't know how to communicate 360. They communicate a few grunts of emotions. Women often communicate many emotions. You see? So, and the gay people, gay couples, tend to be able to communicate both. They can be very emotional or very not emotional because they're androgynous. So the scales are saying, do you have, in order for you to get an A plus in relationships, a strong air principle? When you're with your mate, you must be master of air. Air means what? First of all, breathing. You must control your breathing. You must breathe deep because your mate will push every button because all of your issues are being extroverted and exposed. So you have to know how to breathe. That's why it's an air sign. When your mate is not feeling very well or feeling a bit out of sorts, this ancient tool tells you breathe, drop your ego, listen with a fair and just ear. Okay? Now, air means intelligence or logic. This means that you should not get involved in a relationship emotionally. Oh, I fell in love. When you fall, you always hurt yourself. Oh, it was chemistry. No, chemistry actually is science, and what you just had happen was not science at all. It was just feelings. Don't call feelings chemistry. There were these shows on television like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, whatever it is, where it's a series of shows that go against everything the natural subconscious mind says love should be like. It's a bunch of drama, emotions, feelings, and that's why there's so many wounds and pains and breakups and abusing and horrors in relationships because they're not following the model that Ra has laid down from the beginning of time. It's better to use, for example, those compatibility sites if you're going to go into relationships. That's a bit more logical, a bit more mentally focused. You're actually analyzing the person. You're weighing and measuring like a scale. You're weighing and measuring this person from an objective kind of due diligence checklist. That's much better, much more intelligent. It's not at the length that we like, the depth of analysis that we like before we bond with someone according to the zodiac, but it's on the way. It's better than just falling in love. You see? So I know what I'm saying goes against a lot of Western values of relationships. But then again, modern relationships have the highest failure of any in history, particularly in America, USA, because the USA rate of divorce is between 65 and 75%. That's like over three-fourths failing. So it's nothing to talk about. It's nothing to emulate. And my goal here is to teach you the truth, because Heru Apsheta or Jupiter is about the truth of something, how a system actually works. So you want to ask yourself, when you're with someone that you love in a relationship, is your ego submerged? Is your ego setting? Are you objective? Do you breathe well? Are you fair and just? Are you clear thinking? Do you do things for yourself, making sure you make we time as well as me time? You have to ask yourself these questions. When I teach this or counsel people on their charts, I ask these exact questions and say, answer the question. Actually, write down your answer so you can actually see on paper in black and white what's going on in your life in this area. So the next thing we're going to see is that the owner of Libra is called Beno Sar, Venus. Beno Sar is a better term to use than Venus. The Kemetic words for the planets and signs are better because they give you more truth of what they're describing. Benu Osar, Benu means phoenix, Osar means good DNA, your good DNA from your lineage, your ancestors. So Benu Osar means the resurrection of your good DNA. That's how we describe the planet Venus. Okay, what does this mean? Venus means that what brings you pleasure, your artistic abilities, the things that Venus represents, are actually the good things, are the resurrection of the good things from your bloodlines. It's saying, as Lord of Libra, Lord of Ma'at scales here, that when you enter a relationship, you're going to see the patterns from your kin, the patterns from your bloodlines resurrecting. The issues from your family and your bloodline, those issues will replay in the relationship and resurrect from the dead. Why they're resurrecting? That you can turn any bad trends from your family or bad family life issues into good ones, good DNA. Every person in the world is working out their inner child, their inner self, their family life issues, their home base issues, their mother father issues in their relationships. Ask any psychiatrist this, they'll tell you the same thing. We knew it back in Kemet by calling this sign's Lord Benu Osar, the replay or resurrection of family dynamics in the DNA. So you'll tend to treat your mate like your mother or father treated the other, or unlike the way the mother or father treated the other, but always the way the parents dealt with relationships, you will be like that or the opposite of that. Something that's why it scales. Opposites, yet similar. Both sides of the scales are similar, yet they're opposite. Okay? Beno Sar is your talent for visualizing something. In other words, when you enter a relationship, the pictures put into your head in childhood, the way you imagine love to be, marriage to be, bonding to be, will resurrect as a program in the relationship, as a script. You have a script in your head, a play that you're visualizing of how this should work, how love should work, how a marriage should work. And that play is going to re-show itself over and over and over in your expectations of your bonding. The question is, are the images, the scripts, the expectations you're having, ma'at? Are they accurate? Are you really seeing this person objectively with no emotion, the air element, no ego, the sun setting? Or are you making up things? Or are you painting the picture to the person to be what they are not? Or not seeing what they really are? Benoît Sarr is about value, called Miao or Bast or Heteru Osho. The planet Venus is about, are you able to know the value of something? Do you have a checklist to determine, like at a pawn shop, you go to a pawn shop, they do a value checklist. Is this thing authentic? Or is it fake? Do you have this kind of list of a fake or less than valuable relationship scenario, or a really high level gold star relationship? Most of you do not. You've not been taught to do so, so you would tend not to have it. You see how much we're learning about relationships here? What make them really work? Now, the story goes on, the plot thickens. Let's look at this image here. Each planet has friends and enemies, just like people. So Libra has these dynamics that work well, neutrally, or poorly in Libra. So note this. In Libra, the sun here is debilitated and is the enemy. You know why. Debilitated means lame, won't work well here. Okay? A disability of sorts. Weakened, unable to function properly. Kind of depressed and uncomfortable in that situation. So the sun, which is ego, is the enemy of relationships and doesn't work well in relationships. The moon is neutral. Emotion. The moon means emotions. So emotions can work well or work poorly because you want to have the romantic warmth of the bond, but you don't want to be too emotional. So it can neutral means it can go either way. Mars, interestingly, it says here it's neutral generally, meaning passion and excitement can go either way in a relationship. But Mars also happens to be what's called detrimented in the scales, meaning aggression and too much forceful energy detriments the relationship. You don't want to do too much aggressive in your face kind of thing. Yelling and screaming and punching and that kind of thing is not healthy for a relationship. It will detriment the scenario. Note that Sebec Mercury, which is communication and details, are friendly to relationships. The better you're able to communicate, as I said before, the more information you have about the mate, the more you talk to each other, it will have a friendly effect on the love life. Now, here's an interesting one. Jupiter here, which is philosophy and a lot of sharing, is an enemy to relationships. Jupiter also means religion or philosophies. Now we're getting into a pickle because right now Jupiter entered Libra and will be there for about a year, but it's an enemy of the scales. Okay. What that means is that you don't want to be too generous in a relationship. You don't want to just give and give because of the giving. In a relationship, you don't want to reward bad behavior, give to bad people, be generous to monsters, be forgiving of wicked people, of bad behaviors. You see, you want to make sure that you're not being Pollyanna, overlooking evil things said or done, that you're not googly eyed optimistic. You want to be very down to earth. Okay? Here we have Venus, who rules it, and this means Mula Trikona. This means it does very well here. It's very strong here. So, Benosar Venus, meaning romance, creativity, gentleness, manners, sensitivity, etiquette, all the things of Benosar or Venus do well. It's good to be romantic in a bond. It's good to be gentle, considerate, romantic, tactile, fun loving, pleasure giving, exchanging pleasures. Okay? And then what also surprised people here is Rukapet Saturn, which is discipline and hard work. duty, and discipline are exalted and a friend. That when you exalt your responsibilities to your mate, your duties to your loved one, and you take that bond seriously, because Saturn owns serious things, things that are grave and serious. When you are disciplined, steady, all Saturn words, and serious with your mate, mature, a Saturn word is maturity, with your mate, that maturity, seriousness, discipline, and hard work, Saturn, 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 will exalt the relationship and actually make you into friends. So here you're learning a whole textbook of information of which parts of you do better in a relationship and which parts of you will harm the relationship. Okay? I wish they had put Mars here as being detrimental. That's not in here. But it really should be, because it's neutral on one level, meaning, like I said before, passion and excitement can help the relationship, but can also hurt it. But it leans more towards the negative influencing of a relationship because it's also detrimented, which is not listed in this particular table. Okay? Now, there's one last thing. Let's see here. Okay, this wheel tells you, for example, here's Libra. This tells you that it's air, that the Lord is Venus. Binosar, the sign is the scales here. These are the decans here, these parts, these three white parts. We won't cover these colors here for now. That each sign is divided into tens, 10 degrees, 10, 20, 30. The first 10 degrees, or the beginning of the relationship, is more Libran, or like romance. The middle part of the relationship is more like Aquarius. You become more distant. You become more objective. You become more calm and stable in the relationship. You become a little more thinking of the bigger implications of the relationship, the social power of the relationship. And then the end of relationships can often be tricky, Gemini, very tricky, where things can flip quickly and friend can become foe, lover can become the one who hates you the most. It can become very childish at the end of any phase of the relationship or any cycle of the relationship. Okay, so it starts out as rose colored, becomes kind of objective, and you get used to each other and kind of distant in a certain way, but still close. And the end of it becomes quite childish and quite ridiculous. And this here tells you Saturn's exalted, that discipline, hard work, duty, responsibility will exalt a love bond. Okay? As you see, there are many other things in here with these colors and everything, but that's a whole other level of information. So let's go back to this. There's one more dynamic, which I mentioned in the video, I believe it was called How to Know Anything. I did it several years ago, so I'm not quite sure the title, but it's on the YouTube channel somewhere. If you type in the search, How to Know Everything, I discussed this dynamic a little bit in that video, but it becomes important in this one. We'll cover for the last few moments two things, what's called essential aspects and house to house. Okay? Essential angles or aspects. If you count this house as 1, pretend this is 1 where my cursor is. This becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 from 1. Okay? Now, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is called a square, which is called stress. So 4 away from 7, which is 10. Okay? Or 4 going backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or 4. So 10 and 4 are squaring a right angle. They are stressful to relationships. Okay? What does that mean, for example? Well, 4 is Cancer. Cancer is moodiness, and your mother's, the mother-in-law's basically. Okay? So moodiness can be a great stressor on relationship if you're too moody, or if you let your mother in too much into the bond, it becomes a stressor. And Capricorn here is career, that work often stresses love bonds, they stress marriages. Being away from the home, being away from your mate, the stress and pressures of work are brought back home. So you're learning your first family, your original family, and your career are organic stressors of relationships. They're natural squares. Okay? Now, trines, which mean 5 from 7, are helpful to relationships. They help harmonize them. So 7 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Aquarius, and the other way, 7, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Gemini, which are the other air signs, because air here is yellow, blue is water signs, red is fire, and green is earth in this wheel. That the other air signs actually help to bring balance and luck, fortune to marriage. Aquarius is having social activities, being involved in things, each person having their own life, being part of their own groups, sharing a similar cause. If the couple share a similar cause, this helps the marriage. Okay? When you help each other with your hopes, dreams, and desires, when the partners are helping each other fulfill each other's hopes, dreams, and desires, that's Aquarius. That helps strengthen the marriage. Third house is communication and daily activities. Making daily activities fun and interesting, keeping it uh, different and engaging, and having a childlike nature with your mate, almost like childlike playfulness and fun. The third house, or the twins, are about hobbies. You should each have your hobbies. The twins are about music. It's a very musical sign. So having some kind of artistic or cultural events in the relationship to go to helps. Going to the theater, going to the Broadway shows, dancing together. In fact, 11th house, Aquarius owns dance. Dancing together, helping each other with their dreams, having childlike fun and playfulness in the relationship, that helps stabilize. Being all serious all the time does not, even though Saturn's exalted, it's exalted, including having a few times of just silly fun together. And of course, the twins, Gemini, is clear communication training. How to speak to people where they can hear you, and how to demand being heard in a way that's not disrespectful. Okay? Opposites 180 degrees are either or scenarios. It feels like an either or situation where this town is not big enough for the two of us. So you just, opposite 7 we learned is 1. Aries, the ram of me, me, me. Me, me, me competes with we. But they must find a cooperation. So you understand that if the person has their life, you're married, but you have your life, and the mate has their life, and we understand this, that can create problems because you're away from each other now. You have less time together. So you have to make sure you have a little time separate and time together. You've got to find that balance point. Okay? All right. 3 from the scales is what's called a sextile. So 1, 2, 3, that's Sagittarius. And then 1, 2, 3, that's Leo. Sextiles are more like things that keep it interesting, things that keep it a bit alive and surprising, things that help the communication in the bond. So Sagittarius, which means travel. Travel can tend to help keep it fresh. And Leo, which is fun. Travel and fun help keep relationships interesting, fresh, fodder for conversation, food for thought. Okay? And 6 from the scales are called quincunxes, which mean a riddle that you can't quite solve. A round peg in a square hole. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 here is the fish of Pisces, and then we go the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the bull of Taurus. Okay? So the fish of Pisces, which is too much self-sacrificing, martyrdom, victim playing, giving yourself forever to that person, giving everything you are to that person, that's going to make a problem that's hard to resolve. Okay? And being too materialistic, too much about what the person has, Taurus here, too much about the money, too much about the sensual, sexual side of it. If that's too much, it's going to create tensions and irreconcilable differences. Okay? And then 2 from the scales, this is 1 that becomes 2, that's Scorpio, and 7, that's 1, this becomes 2, is Virgo. These are what are called semi-sextiles, but adjacent signs check each other. So Libra, which is openness, fairness, sharing, let's talk it out, let's be direct, let's be fair, that kind of politeness of Libra will be checked by the intensity, the depth, the deep issues of Scorpio. You see, Libra says, we are separate, we're different. Let's respect each other's differences. Let's respect each other's ways and needs. But Scorpio says, oh, really? Well, I'm going to force you all to see how your wounds can bond you too, how pain can make you work tighter together too. How joining your resources and the intensity and the issues that brings up can also make you come closer. Scorpio is not about politeness. It's about we're hurting together, we're going to wound each other. Can we use, through our wounding of each other, the power to find deeper connection? You see how that's checking the niceties of Libra? And Virgo is checking it in the sense of Virgo's about nitpicking. It's about debt, money, money management, cleanliness, hygiene. Do you keep your room clean, your house clean? That whole conversation of smells and hygiene and habits in the house, that whole conversation checks the sweetness of Libra. Because you have your way with your toothpaste, and the other person has their way, and how they like to fold their clothes, and how you fold your clothes, and the kind of furniture you like and they like, and how they do hygiene can really gross you out compared to what you're used to. That checks the nicety and the sweetness of Libra, becomes quite violent and vicious when engaged in the Virgo sense. So we're learning what I teach people who take my astrology training, my initiation into astrology. I go through all this with you. So I teach couples that, okay, these are the rules of engagement. These are the rules of relationships. And I make sure you practice these rules that to keep it alive and fun, 3 and 5, Leo and Sag. You should travel every few years or so. You should try new adventures. You should go to a lot of theatrical things and things you have fun, football games, baseball games, um, doggy shows, whatever makes you feel happy and fun. Okay? That you're going to wound each other and fight over hygiene and cleaning issues. That's normal, but don't let that go too far because it will innately stress the relationship, as does work. Don't work too much. Don't ignore your mate because it's a natural square to marriage. So you got to really be careful here. Okay? Don't get too emotional and moody. Learn to control your moods. Take meditation classes to control. Do yoga. You better learn how to do that because it's a natural stressor or square to love. You learn all this. That way you're not writing the book by yourself. Many people say, I wish that love came with a manual. Well, here it is. It's on the screen. This is the manual. Okay? And the final part is the house to house dynamic. So let's call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here we have marriages. The second house from something is always its wealth. So marriage's wealth comes from sharing intense, painful moments together. What makes a relationship rich is that you overcame hard times together. The third house, which would be here, this is 1, 2, 3. The third house represents the courage. What gives courage to relationships? It's Sagittarius. Having a philosophy that's tolerant. Your spiritual values will bring courage to the relationship. The fourth house tells you the happiness of something, which is interesting because what makes a relationship happy is that the family becomes stable and has social status. When you get married, you attain automatically a new status, a kind of respect. That's Capricorn. But notice, it's the happiness, but also the stress. So we're layering two meanings. We're layering the squaring angle of stress, but the happiness of the fourth. So what makes the relationship happy at the same time brings it stress. Both are going to happen from the same area. Fifth from something tells you the fun. What makes marriages fun is going out and doing things in society, having similar causes. What makes it fun is learning how to respect this person objectively for who they are. The sixth house tells you what brings disease and troubles to something. What brings disease and troubles to something is giving yourself over too much, totally getting lost in that person. Drugs and alcohol, that's the fish of Pisces. Okay? That will definitely begin to erode a relationship. The seventh tells you what will balance out the relationship or what relationships love, what they feel helps the relationship. This give me my space, respecting my space with ethics and dignity, and that I use my personal space to respect you in a dignified way, and being honest. Being honest. Honesty, truthfulness. Aries is very direct in that sense, very honest, not afraid to tell the truth. Honesty is what really makes a relationship feel like a bond. The eighth from something, so 7, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The eighth from any other house is the scandal, stress, and shame of the first house. The shame of marriage is Taurus. The shame is not having money, losing the feelings of romance, losing your resources, losing sexual interest and vigor. Those are the things that shame and humiliate and embarrass and horrify marriages. The ninth tells you what brings luck to the marriage. Luck and expansion. That'll be here the Gemini energy, the Gemini sign. What brings luck to marriages is communication, playfulness, having a youthful spirit, staying young, talking to each other, having a nice local experience in your town. Okay? The 10th house tells you what makes a relationship successful and brings it status. That'd be Cancer. What makes it successful is getting along with each other's families, understanding each other's deep heritage, respecting each other's emotions and feelings, respecting them. But it's also 4 from Libra. It can also bring stress. Okay? Then we have the 11th from Libra, which is 5th here, going around this way. 11th means, what is the hope and dream and wish of a marriage? It's to have fun, to have someone to have romance with. It can also be children if you're heterosexual or if you're gay and you want children. Children bring a kind of fulfillment to marriages, if that's what you want to do. If not, having a lot of fun, having someone to have fun with is the hope and dream and biggest wish of a marriage, that we have fun. And finally, the 12th from any other house, in this case, Virgo, is what will drain or destroy the first house. In this case, Libra. Virgo is what destroys and rots a relationship. Nitpicking too much, debt problems, loss of money, in-laws can do this. Pets can do this because Virgo owns pets. Pets make a lot of stress in relationships if you're not very careful. And as I mentioned, debt issues. So you learn this manual of love. We covered a lot in this one basic hour tutorial. But since we have now Heru Apsheta Jupiter entering the scales of Libra, I thought this video may be useful to the world, and to replay it and study the dynamics, the geometries, the relationships, how the first 6 are about individualizing from the group, and the next 6 are about uniting and merging with the group's needs. And all these things you're learning, if you think them through, if you contemplate them in your own life, your own relationships, they will help you become balanced in 360 degrees of love. And if you review the friends and enemies of relationships, okay? We discussed, for example, what makes a bond feel fulfilled is Leo. But you can read these things, fulfillment through the moon is emotions, through taking dynamic actions together and adventures together, and communicating, and having the same kind of philosophy, but too many lovers. Leo likes to have lovers. Venus is an enemy to that fulfillment. Saturn is an enemy to fun. Having extramarital affairs is an enemy to the marriage. So you're seeing there's a lot in here about life that was figured out back in the Nile thousands of years ago. And as this maps the collective unconscious, it hasn't changed because the human brain is the same basically. The nervous system is the same. We have the same needs, the same ways. 5 limbs, eyes, nose, and a mouth, heart. We have all the same basic features since the beginning of our creation. So study this, use it, practice, review this video, and make your understanding of the map of the system of marriage, of bonding or of love, clear. And the more you review this, you should review it together as a couple. You should make plans using the information and arrange scheduled date nights and travel times of the year and use this information in your real life. This is the gift that we gay people bring the world, is the science of the gates. These are the 12 great gates. And how to help people use these gates of heaven to make life on earth much sweeter. So I plead with you all, review this for the next year, memorize it, discover new things on your own with it, share it with your mate, and talk about what they may see in the dynamics of the model, and begin to form, based upon this geometry of the unconscious, your own version of it, your own take on it all, what works for your relationship. Add your flavor to this general soup without compromising the actual soup itself. You see? And that way, you'll be much more secure in love. May you all enjoy the philosophy of love, the whole of love, the system dynamics, what we call the laws or the system parameters of the sign of Libra, the sign of Ma'at, where you are egoless, you are smart and intelligent, objective, sweet, disciplined, loyal, hardworking, and philosophical. All the things that work well in the scales of Libra, the sign of love. If you wish to have more information about this, you may join us in our membership classes. You go to the link below, I'll put it below, www.kingrasmaba.com, and I teach much more of this. I will be doing an astrology membership class very soon for those who want to really learn this science. And my goal is to make the science, as I just mentioned, real for you, help you in real life, not some philosophical thing in an armchair or an ivory tower. So you can join the membership now at the link below and learn about your chakras and a lot of astrology secrets I teach in that class as well. We thank you so much for your time. Dwawend Hotepu.